Hey YouTube, welcome to the YouTube Moms Book Club. This is week 3 and we are reading chapter 3 in Moms Who Changed the World by Lindsay O'Connor. And this week we were reading about Monica, the mother of St. Augustine. If you're not familiar with St. Augustine, he was one of the Latin Church fathers, and he's most recognized for his written works, namely City of God and Confessions, which is basically a story of his personal journey and search for God and truth. So I was familiar with him. I read parts of his writings in high school, but I had never heard anything about his mom, Monica. And so if you're reading along in the book with us, as you read this week, she was a mom of persistent prayer. I think that's such an awesome thing to be known for. And I was really encouraged and motivated by this chapter. I hope you guys were too. Basically, St. Augustine, I guess you could say, was somewhat of a wayward child. He was heavily influenced by his society and his circle of friends and his education, and not really in a positive way. So it wasn't until much later in his adult years that he actually began following his mother's footsteps as far as her belief system, and at that point her prayers were finally realized, and he made a change in his heart to follow God. So you can imagine after years of praying for something so specific as salvation for your kids and not seeing that come to pass in their life, the hurt and frustration that his mother may have felt, and yet she persisted in praying for him and that relentless intercession over that area of his life. And that was really something. There's a really neat quote from him about his mom. Let me read that. He said, "My mother, your faithful servant, wept to you for me, shedding more tears for my spiritual death than other mothers shed for the bodily death of a son. For in her faith and in the spirit which she had from you, she looked down on me as dead. You heard her, and did not despise the tears which streamed down and watered the earth in every place where she bowed her head in prayer. You heard her." Thought that was pretty neat. So this chapter just really motivated me and encouraged me to just make more of an effort in praying for Ori, and not just for her physical well-being, but for her spiritual well-being as well. I pray for her every day throughout the day, but it usually tends to be things like, God, please let her go to sleep in her crib tonight, those type of things. And I could really do better in praying for, specific spiritual things. So, yeah, I was challenged and encouraged, motivated. I hope you guys were too. It led me to find, during my pregnancy, I did do like a really neat prayer journal, and each week as, different things were developing, I would pray over that area. So, I think early on in week 7 or something like that, when the heart is developing, I prayed over her heart, that she would, have a heart for the Lord. As her little brain was developing, I prayed that she would have the mind of Messiah, and I just had different scriptures for different weeks in development. And that was a really neat thing. But, I didn't continue that after she was born. And I just kind of fell off the bandwagon as far as, having a schedule or routine things, different areas that I pray for over her. And so after reading this chapter and being inspired to get back on in the bandwagon and be making more of a conscious effort to cover her in prayer, all the aspects of her life, her physical health, but also spiritually, I found this prayer calendar for moms. This is from the Inspired to Action blog. You can just go to inspiredtoaction.com and find this free PDF printout on her website. But it's basically just a 30-day prayer calendar so you can use it every month, and it just covers different topics and gives you scriptures to pray for each one. So, for example, day 1 is for salvation, day 6 is for a love for God's Word, day 19 is for humility, day 25 is for purity, just different things to pray over your kids. So I thought that was a really neat resource that I wanted to share with you guys. And another way that this chapter just really encouraged me this week is, personally, I'm having to wean Ori sooner than I had anticipated, and I've been really down about that this week. And I was just encouraged by this chapter. I was thinking about, though I may not be, nourishing her body physically from my body much longer through breastfeeding, I'm taking on a new endeavor to, spend a lot of time praying for her and covering her in prayer and nourishing her soul in that way. And that was just kind of something that I took away and just made me feel good from reading this chapter. So anyway, I want to know what you guys thought, if you guys were encouraged like I was. I'd love to know if you have any resources like this to share, or specific prayers or scriptures that you like to pray over your kids, or if you have any stories of prayers that you prayed that were answered, anything like that, anything that you took away from this chapter. I'd love to hear about it. Just leave a comment below, and we'll see you next week for chapter 4. Blessings.